In trading, knowledge is power, and lack of knowledge in what you're doing can be costly, very costly. So you need a solid foundation of quality market education. Whether you're new to trading or a seasoned veteran looking to add advanced strategies to your arsenal, there's always something to learn and something to improve on. And now you can access the same knowledge that professional traders receive with Market Rebellion's Trading Education. I'm Bill Johnson, Head of Options Education here at Market Rebellion, and we've assembled a comprehensive curriculum based on decades of real trading experience, covering everything you need to know about trading options from beginner to advanced. We go way beyond the nuts and bolts of options theory to teach you how to apply specific trading strategies and the techniques needed to adapt your trades when markets shift. Regardless of your goals, you'll gain access to the education you need with easy-to-consume lessons so you can learn to trade with confidence, enhance your knowledge, and master the practical skills required for market success. So please join us for in-depth trading education only from Market Rebellion. Hey, good morning, Market Rebels. Yes, it is morning. We are recording this ahead of time. We've moved our time to Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so don't be shocked when you see that's going to be our new time going forward. But today, Stu, we've got a really cool topic for you.
Well, we have cool topics every week, but this is really cool, and it's absolutely a trap that people fall into that they just absolutely shouldn't. It's just the exact opposite of what they're trying to really do.
And this came about, we've had a number of people asking about this in Q&A, so we've gone through it multiple times, but we thought, you know what? Let's get into the math of it. I usually try not to because a lot of times it's not really the point. We're saying, okay, here's just the way it is, take our word for it. But I also understand some people say, well, that's not good enough to just say this is how it is. Show me. Show me why. So we're going to do a very cool topic, like I say, just another cool topic. But before we get into it, a quick reminder for everybody, Stu and I, as well as others, we got Ryan and Justin and a few others. Chris Sikora, I think, is going to be there. January 29th and 30th, so that's like right around the corner. And where you can get a virtual pass, which means you can watch it live on your computer, your phone, whatever you want to do, whatever device. But all you have to do is shoot that little QR code right there. It'll drop you right into a link where you can get a virtual pass. You'll also get a copy of the recording, which means you can go back and review it and take notes. It's going to be a lot of fun, but Stu and I are on for 2 hours on the first day, 2 hours on the second day, talking about some really cool topics, the difference between retail traders and professional traders and how markets actually work behind the scenes. Show you a lot of the traps that people fall into. So lots to look forward for that. But for today, you know what our topic is? We're going to start off with our Chalk Talk question. What's the risk of legging into a vertical spread? Now, I'll go through the examples specifically in a little bit, but vertical spread, we're going to buy an option and sell an option. And when we say legging in, you're doing the first piece, let's say the long piece first. We call those legs, the long leg first. We wait for an execution, and then we do the short leg. We sell the option. That's what we call legging into it. You're just stepwising into it, kind of piecemeal.
And you can do that with any strategy.
You can do that with
legging into the strategy.
Correct.
Doing one side, then you're waiting to get your execution, then you're doing. And sometimes there's hours or days or weeks between those two legs. But we're talking about at the moment, let's get the vertical spread done, going in, waiting to get the first leg done, bang. Now you go in and get the second. That's the kind of setup we're talking about.
And that's a very good point, because you could, for some various reasons, you might, let's say, buy a long call and you want to wait for a few days or a week or two because you've got this feeling there's going to be this momentum and you want to ride that for a little bit and then sell that. That's a different strategy.
In
That's
fact, I
just
think
taking.
John likes to talk about that fairly
Yes,
often,
he
doesn't
does.
he? Like
Yep.
buys the at the money, waits for the stock to move his way, and then
And then sells. Right.
sells another one later on.
Right. Nothing
That's
wrong with
not
that.
this.
No, right. Nothing wrong with that at all. That's just taking
No,
more risk for
it's
more
great.
reward. What we're talking about is that we really want the vertical spread right now, but instead of executing it as a single transaction, we're going to step into it one side at a time.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about. And the question is, what's the risk of that? Because in the end, you still have one long, one short. So some people say, well, who cares? Well, professional traders care. So as you've probably guessed from our Chalk Talk question, exactly the same as the topic. What's the risk of legging into spreads? Now this goes for all spreads, really all strategies, but we're going to hold it to just verticals because that's what's been coming up a lot in our Q&A.
Yes.
So again, rather than just telling people, take our word for it, or there's this thing called execution risk and you don't want it. Sometimes people say, well, it doesn't really explain it. So we're going to dive in. So hold on to your hats. It's going to be a little bit of math, but it's going to be
And
fun. We're going to show you why it's a bad idea.
and that's a topic, that topic of execution risk is, which is really what we're talking about here, is something that a lot of people don't even
Consider.
think, right. They don't even consider that they're engaging in it. And that's part of the problem. And that's
Yep.
what we're here to do. We're here to show you that if you're not looking for it, then it is a problem because you are taking on additional angles of risk, which you really don't want.
And maybe don't even know about. And one of the things that you and I will be talking about in Miami is what we call kind of behind the scenes, the level two limit order books, marginal pairs traders, things like that. And we will start to understand just how fragile a limit order book can be. So one of the things that a lot of people do, they'll say, well, I can see that the long call is 8 and the short one's 5, so it's going to be sitting there for the next 15 minutes. Nope.
Yeah, wrong.
One trade could knock those out.
Absolutely.
So let's find out what's the risk. So again, from the
Or
top,
one tick of the stock, or one
one,
tick of the
yeah,
applied
exactly. Yeah.
volatility. Yeah.
Yep.
Anything.
Yep. Starts knocking out some limit orders, some stop orders, and there goes your quotes. So our vertical spread, we want to buy the 100, 105. Strikes don't matter. It's just an example. And we have two ways to enter it. So we could either buy the 100 call, let's say it's trading for 8, we would have to spend 8. And then once that executes, and as Stu said, this might be seconds later. That's kind of our intention, is that very quickly we're going to do the second leg and sell the 105 call. And let's say our broker's platform shows that it's currently trading for 5. Okay, so this is how a lot of people enter the spread in two different legs, two different transactions. And what we were telling people is that professional traders will instead do this. They're going to buy the 100, 105, and they are going to specify a net debit, in this case, of 3. That's just the net between those. I'm spending 8 and collecting 5.
Which
So
is
we're
the
going
goal. The goal is
which
to pay
which
3.
correct. And that's going to be important. That's sounds like an easy idea there, but that turns out to be critically important. It's one of the big
Critically
sources
important because you
of it.
could just easily sway off of that number one way or the other, which you're really not looking to do.
Right. So the question is, well, what's the risk of doing it this way? So again, to new traders and a lot of retail traders, they'll say, well, I'm either buying the 105 and selling the 105, but over here I'm buying the 105 and selling the 105. It's the same thing.
Mm.
And in that sense, yes, it is the same thing. That's not where the risk lies.
It might turn out to be the same thing if
And
you
in
got
terms of the
eight
prices,
five
right, right. The
or
risk comes into the
8.25, 5.25, but you may
the
not.
ri- the risk comes out to be in the price, not in the construction.
And the prices relative to one another.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's I think where a lot of people misunderstand this is they think, well, in both cases, I'm long the 100 and short the 105.
Which you
So
are.
this construction is not the problem, it's the price. That's what we're going to find out, but we're going to dive into some very cool math here and show you what's actually going on. Before we do that, quick reminder for everybody, marketrebellion.com/get started. We have a whole host of articles and videos on topics just like this to help you get a firm foundation for options trading. So check us out there. So Stu, we're going to start out with a very unlikely place. This is an example I used to do in a lot of the classes. We're going to do a broomstick. People go, broomstick? What are we talking about broomsticks for? Well, it doesn't have to be a broomstick. It could be Bongo's perch. It could be a pipe, just a stick, a log, something that we can cut. But just to make it easy, let's say that it is 5 feet long. It's 60 inches. And Stu, I'm going to give you some choices. I'm going to allow you to cut this into two pieces. Now, I'm also, just to add a zero in here, you could say, well, I'm going to choose to make no cuts, and therefore I'm going to keep the 60-inch broomstick. That's one choice. You could also say, and also to make the math a little easier, you can only cut in 1-inch segments. So we go, okay, I'm going to choose, this is another choice, this would be the smallest one you could make. I'm going to make a 1-inch cut, but as soon as you do that, this one has to be 59, and this turns out to be important. You're getting two numbers, but you only get to pick one. The other gets fully determined.
No, people might be thinking, like, what does this have to do with anything that we're talking about? Stick with this, people. Stick with this is amazing.
Got everything to do with it. Yep.
Just hang in there.
So now you might say, I could do a 2-inch cut, but now that forces this to be 58. Notice that if Stu picks this to be 2, he cannot say, well, let's make this one 54 or 67. He gets zero choice in this. It's fully determined. So he could also say, I'm going to do a 3-inch cut, and then this would have to be 57. All right, so the key to understand right now is that you have no choice in the length of the second cut. Now, for many of you who have had statistics and managed to stay awake, you might remember a term called degrees of freedom. That's what they call it in statistics. I know, that's kind of a scary term. And all it really means is how much freedom do you have for a choice? In this case, you have 1 degree of freedom, even though you have 2 sticks in the end, assuming you don't choose 0. But you really get one choice because the other becomes fully determined. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's going to be super important later. And so if you're going, wow, what does this got to do with it? Like Stu said, that's why we usually don't go into this kind of depth. We say, just trust us, put it in as a vertical spread. But people ask, so we're going to show you. So now what are the possibilities? Well, Stu could say, I'm not going to do any cuts, and therefore I'm going to end up with a 60-inch broomstick. Or I could choose let's say maybe choosing on the right, we're going to choose the left cut at 60, or no cut, and 0 on the right. But notice it turns out to be the same thing. We don't care about the order. So that collapses into one choice, even though there's really 2 different ways to get it. He could also say, I'm going to cut 1 inch off the left and have 59 on the right. Or I could cut 59 inches off the left and have 1 inch on the right. We're going to call it the same thing, the same combination. He could also say, I'm going to choose to cut it 2 inches from the left and have 58 inches on the right, or 58 inches on the left and 2 inches on the right. We're going to call
either way in the spread. Either way, it's 8 and 3. It's 8 and a quarter and 5 and a quarter. It's 9 and it's $3. Any way you cut it, it's $3.
Right. We're going to call these the same. So now notice the difference here is 60, or we could say minus 60, but we're just going to count what's called the absolute value. We're not worried about the minus sign. There's a 60 difference between those numbers. And over here, what have we got? There's a difference of 58, and here there's 56. And if we keep going down the line, we're going to see that we always count by 2s. Okay, so that is going to be another important point. So if we were to continue this all the way down for every possible choice, remember the last choice you could do is to cut 59 inches off the left and have 1 inch on the, actually the last choice is to cut or keep 60 on the left and 0. But if we were to go through all of those choices, there's only 31 possible ones. This turns out to be super important. We are counting by 2s, and there's only 31 possible differences.
Remember that, 31. We'll show you again, 31.
Now, entering a vertical spread, you choose one difference, say $3. But once you specify that, we're assuming we're going to put it in as a professional trader would as a package deal. Think about this. There are now an infinite number of ways to fill that order. All you have to do is say 3. And as Stu said, sure, it could be 8 and 5. It could be 9 and 6. It could be 6 and a quarter, 3 and a quarter. There's all kinds of ways that you can fill that, and that makes it easier to fill.
And we don't care.
As a trader, I don't care. You want to give me 12 and 9, fine.
As long as it's $3, we don't care how we got there.
Now, as an analogy, sometimes I talk to traders, think about trading in a car. So again, let's say that you choose one difference.
Love this example. Love this example.
3, and there's an infinite number of ways to fill that order. Think about that in this example. Let's say a new car is 30,000 and your car is worth 10,000.
Or at least you think it is. But
well, let's say that the dealer has given you that.
10 grand, right?
So you're thinking, okay, well, I can walk out with a net of 20,000. Right. I have to give up the car and I have to write a check for 20. And I can get the $30,000 car. Now you're sitting here thinking we want to negotiate. So you say, I'll tell you what, I'd like to do a net of 19. Now, if that's true, there's an infinite number of ways that the car dealer can finagle that deal.
Really? Yeah.
So now but some people get very hard-headed and say, no, I want a discount on the new one and I want more for my car. Well, that's just a mental accounting thing. It's got nothing to do with anything. Why would it matter if the car dealer says, I can do 29 here and 11 here, which gives us what? 18. Okay, so we go, okay, we could do that. But why would it matter if he just says, I'll give you 12 for yours because I can't discount this?
And 18 is different than 19. Look, if 19 is what you want to pay, think about it. You're sitting there. What do you want to pay? I want to pay 19. All right, now what?
Who cares where the 19 comes from?
Right.
Right. What if the dealer says, look, these are really hot commodity now. We are just not allowed to discount them, but I can give you 11 for yours.
Right. And the other side is, look, if I want to pay 28 and I want you to give me 12, well, 28 minus 12 is
18.
18, right? See, that's not 19. So now you're changing your $3 debit to something less.
Correct. But the point is that if you wanted 18, let's say you said, I have to have 1,000 off of this and I need 1,000 more here. That's forcing one specific way to make that deal. See, that's the catch. And the dealer might say, my hands are tied. I cannot discount this. But why would you care? What you're really worried about is what is the size of the check when you leave. That's what matters, not what each of these individual pieces are.
No.
Okay, so let's keep that, and then we're going to move forward. Quick reminder before we do, marketrebellion.com/get started. More stuff just like this for you.
And that's a really cool example, Bill, because we've all been there. We've all sat at the dealer and we've all tried to negotiate. You're giving me that much for my car? No, it's worth more. And so one of the things about that negotiation process is to always know what you want to pay when you go in, not to let the dealer suck you in. And it's the same thing here. What do you want to pay for the vertical spread?
Right.
That's it.
Now, let's take the next step. Let's enter another broomstick. We're going to do the same game. Stu can now cut in 1-inch increments, also including 0. But he can now choose here, and he can choose here. He now gets 2 choices, or for the stats people, 2 degrees of freedom. And that one extra dimension radically changes everything. This is our second leg.
This is our second leg.
Right.
This is the first one's done, and now we have our second one.
Right. So here now we get the possibilities here. Stu could choose 0 and 60, or he could do 60 and 0. But now he could do 1 and 59, let's say on the second one, or 59 and 1. He could do 2 and 58, 58 and 2. But notice what's going to happen now. I don't just have to compare left to right because we're dealing with 2 broomsticks. I can also compare this way. I could say the difference between the 2 is 1, or the difference between the 2 is 1 here. So what happens is that the difference becomes either 60, 59, 58, Now we're counting by ones. I told
So
you
how
this.
many is that altogether?
Now it's 121 possible
Ah,
differences,
oh
not
my God, that
31.
hurts. All the
Ugh.
extra possibilities to mess this up.
How many extra possibilities to mess this up? And here's the key, the real kicker. You're giving the market the choice of where to make that second cut.
Right. So you're not in charge
You're
anymore.
not in charge of you're
You're not the
exactly.
risk person. You're not
You're
the one that's dictating what
you're the
you want to
chump.
pay.
Right,
You're
you're the right.
allowing the market to
You're
make
allowing
that
the
choice
market to
for
make that
you.
choice. Now, a little side note, little footnote here. You might notice that going from 31 to 121 is roughly fourfold.
Hmm.
And yes, we're starting to see some option pricing. That's where the part of where the square root
Square
pricing
root. Right.
yep, is coming from. So a little side note right there, if you happen to notice that, little bonus points for you. So now splitting vertical spreads, you choose one difference, say 3. The first leg gets filled at 8. But now here's the key. What did we say the first time? That you just put a limit of 3. There's an infinite number of ways to fill that. Think about that. That's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ways. However, if we split them up, we enter leg 1, and I now get filled at 8. The second that is filled, think about this. Now you have one way for that
One.
order to get filled at a debit. Not sort of one, partial one, exactly one.
Not
That's a rat.
maybe it'll get filled. Maybe now it's like, well, I'll put it out there and I hope I get filled. And
You have one hope, and that's not a way to trade. So you've
Mhm.
gone from an infinite number of possibilities or flexibilities for the market, let's say, to fill that order. Lots of combinations that come up with 3. Now you've got one, and that is absolutely you must get filled at 5.
Well, look, Bill, I mean, hope is a strategy. It's not a very good
It's
strategy,
one
but
it's
it
one
is
that
a
a lot of
strategy.
people use. So you change from an infinite number of ways to one. So the principle that we're getting down to here, again, people who have had this in statistics, there's a principle that says the difference between two things is more stable than two independent choices. That the difference, which is why a lot of your statistical tests are, let's do the difference in means. It becomes a more stable statistic. That's more of the technical details, but that's the key. The difference is more stable if we do it as one trade than two independent trades. So now if we have 61 choices on the first try and we have 61 on the second, now we have 61 squared total possibilities. Those are what are called our microstates. What's 61 squared? 3,600, 37, 3721, I think 3721. That's a lot from 61 to 3721. But because a
Bill,
lot
that
of
was amazing. You were able to do that in your head?
that's not hard. You just do the 10 to 60 squared, and then the 60 plus 60 is 120, and then add the 1.
This is why I was never a broker, people, because I need calculators.
So anyway, out of those 3721 possibilities, a lot are going to collapse into the same combination. So here's what happens. We get this triangle. There's one way to get a 60 difference. There are 2 ways to get a 59 difference. There are 3 ways to get a 58 difference, and so on. And this bottom row is going to be 121 wide. So that is the real behind the scenes read. Now you see why we don't talk about this to people. It's a lot of, but when people are going to keep pushing and saying it doesn't matter, it does matter. It matters a tremendous amount. You are radically changing your odds for a decent fill. And remember,
And look, let's be honest here, guys. This is a little difficult to folloh. I mean, it's a little
of course it is.
outside of the
Of
your
course it is.
ordinary course of business. 1 and 1 equals 2,
Sure.
or 8 minus 5 equals 3. But this is the math. This is the magic potion behind the curtain here. This is the math that proves this, and this is why novice traders
Miss
uh,
it. It's easy
miss
to
it.
miss. They're forgiven. They're forgiven for
They
missing
don't
it.
even
Yeah.
know that it's there. This is
No.
why they miss it, and it's exactly the why a professional trader would never miss this, because
Never.
that's the level where they've gotten to, because they understand that there's this ridiculous risk behind doing it one leg at a time. And
Ridiculous.
we just call it execution risk, but this is what's going on behind the scenes.
Right. Now it's also that if you have, like you said, if you once you understand this, you'll see why it's not a good idea. But I like to sometimes we have to just pull out the big guns and say, this is this is the behind the scenes math of what's going on and why it's just not a good idea. And as a trader, you are going to have a better time, an easier time getting out of a trade if you get a good entry. In our example here, if you get filled at 375 instead of 3, that is, it might sound like, yeah, it's only 75 cents. That is a world of difference of you getting out alive. World of difference. Now, Stu mentioned execution risk. We've talked about this before, but we can bring it up again. We're looking at our broker's platform. We say, okay, the 100 call is 8, 105 is 5. So in my head, I'm thinking $3. But I execute them as two separate trades because I don't know about this other stuff we just covered. So while I'm setting it up, you got to be a believer of Murphy's Law to have this happen. It happens all the time in the markets. The market starts to rally and you get filled at 820 instead of the 8 that you thought. And if you don't think that's possible, you don't understand limit books at all. That is super, super easy.
All Bill's saying is the stock ticked up. That's
Stock
it.
ticked up.
It's
Right.
stock ticked up most of the time, right? It's probably not going to have something to do with an
Or an
offer.
order got picked off here, and that was the
It
next
might
one.
have. That might be the case as
Who
well,
knows?
right?
Yeah.
Or it might be some uptick involved, or like all the things we said before.
Well,
But for whatever reason, and most of likely, it's going to be the stock went up in this
right.
short period of time. But there you go.
Now what happens? Now we've forced ourselves that the only way to get this 3 that existed in our head is to get 520 here. So now we're
And
going
and are those 100 calls the delta on the 100 calls, people, are they the same delta
correct.
as the
No.
105 calls?
Right, right. The odds are
See, they're
great.
not moving at the same rate,
No,
so you're
no,
not going to get the difference to be
no.
equal.
Unless you keep them as a spread. If they
Right.
both tick up, the spread tends to stay about the same. So
And
again, while we're putting in this trade, let's say that now Murphy's Law kicks in and you get 470. You don't get 5. All right, so now what happens? Now your net debit is 350. It's not 3.
ooh.
And you might say, hey, I got my vertical spread. I got filled at 350. A professional trader is going to go, you did what? What do you mean you got 350? That's a completely horse of a different color. This is not what we wanted. It's not, hey, I got a vertical spread. I'm okay. This becomes super unstable when you are legging into these things. Now, to be fair, could it tick down when we're buying and up when we're selling? Of course, but
Yeah.
that's not a risk. The risk is this. So again, if you want to roll
So
the
what are we saying here, Bill? It could go either way.
it could go either way, but the question is, do you want to spin the roulette wheel to hope that you can get
Hope
290?
it goes your way, or do you
Hope
want
it
what you
goes your
want?
way, or do you want the spread? So now
Right.
let's look at the other side. Let's say that the stock is ticking up. What's going to happen? Yes, this might be getting more. You're going to pay more for it, but this becomes more too. So you're paying more, but you're selling more, and it becomes easier to still try to get that 3 debit. If the stock goes down, this one falls. That's good for you. This one becomes less valuable. That's bad for you. But this debit stays roughly the same. It gives you far more chances to have the thing filled at 3. But
So what
if
we're
you let
talking about here is that the spread has a delta,
the spread has a delta, and that
but
spread
it's
delta is, relatively speaking, is much more
much
stable. That's what we just
lower than the
much more stable.
$100 call. Right.
Correct. And that's why the spread or the difference tends to stay more stable than the two individual pieces. So that's a very good way to look at it. The delta of the entire package is far more stable than the individual deltas if we
The
split them
delta
apart.
on the spread might be 15, and the delta on the call, the $100 call, might be 50 or 55 if
Or
it's
60 or
at the
70.
money-ish.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, just understand that the risk is that we get a bad fill, and that is called execution risk. Now you know why it occurs. Because if we get filled at 8, I have one way for this to become true. If I get filled at 820, there's an infinite number of ways for this to become true. I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. Once we get filled at 820, but I'm saying prior to the trade, we're looking for 3. There's an infinite number of ways for that to be true, right? It doesn't just have to be 8 and 5. But once you lock into this, the whole game has changed. So hopefully that gives you a little better insight why it is so incredibly risky to break these things up. Now, one final comment, because we heard this from one of our Q&A people, said, but hold on a second. I got a better fill. Well,
I got
two
it at a
things.
discount, or
Right. One of
I
two
did
things.
better.
One of two things. It either is because you got lucky and you paid less and sold for more, but that's called luck. It's not repeatable. But it's not because you broke the trade up into two pieces. It's usually because the stock moved against you. The stock, right, spreads get more valuable as if this is a bull spread as it moves up, less valuable as it falls. The stock was probably falling. So it looks like, hey, I was thinking it was going to be at 3 for
Remember,
my
the spread
fill,
has a delta.
and I got filled at 275 or 250. Hey, I did better. No, relatively speaking, you probably did worse.
You probably did worse. Yeah.
You probably did
Or just
worse.
think about it with one, one without the spread, just one option.
One
Oh,
option.
I'm going to go buy this option, and it's
Great example.
$4, or $10. Say
Or eight
$10.
dollars.
I'm
We'll
going to
use
go buy the
$8, the one that we used right here. $8.
Yeah,
Good for them.
$8, right? Oh, I got my fill at $7.50. I did better. Really?
No, you got filled
The
because
stock
the
went down,
stock went down.
youngster. The stock went down, and
Right.
your bet is that it's going up.
Yeah, you didn't
So
do better.
did you really do better? I mean, what?
It puts you behind the 8 ball is all it did. That's all it did.
That's
So,
not that's a half. So on a 50 delta option, that would be $1 down, right? Now you got $1 to make up from where you started out with.
yep. So always remember, mathematically, this is probably the simple sentence. It always introduces unwanted errors and it magnifies them just by giving yourself, or in this case, the market, to make one choice for you. So that's a really in-depth look at the math behind it and why it's happening. If you didn't follow any of it, it's okay. You don't have to repeat it. Just remember, don't break these things up unless you're
And
trying
by
to
the way,
change, to
everyone,
hope and change.
the same thing goes on the unwind.
Oh, for
When
sure.
you're
That's the
looking
other
to get
side.
out of your spread, get out of your spread.
That's right. Yep, get out.
Unless you're looking to take a leg on a direction. But chances are you're not. That's not what you're trying to do. You're just trying to get out of the position. And
Correct.
one other note, we get this fairly often too in Q&A. Because you entered it, you may have entered it at different times.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you have to get out of it at different times. The platform doesn't know anything other than you have this position.
Correct.
So how you got into it, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
What
matter.
matters is that you want to sell these two positions, these two contracts, the 100 and the 105. Put it as a spread. That's it.
Absolutely. Spread is a spread, long or short. Yep. So hopefully you now have enough information to easily answer our Chalk Talk question. What's the risk of legging into a vertical spread? What did you all come up with for an answer?
That
You
you
have many more ways
goes
for it to fail. That was my answer, but lots of ways you could answer it. I also like the fact that you're giving the market the choice to make that second cut.
Yeah, I don't like that one. That's a great answer. Why give someone or some entity or why
The randomness or the roulette wheel of the market to say we're going to spin a roulette wheel to hope that it works in our favor. Not a
you're
good.
taking the control that you have and you're giving it
That's exactly right. To
to
randomness.
giving it away. We'll just say giving it away.
Right. Bad idea. So anyway, hopefully that gives you some new food for thought and to make you better traders by understanding kind of behind the scenes mechanics of how things work. This is some of the many topics that we will be talking about in Miami. If you can join us, please call Market Rebellion and talk to a salesperson. We'd love to have you there live. If not, check out that QR code that we showed you earlier and get your virtual pass. And with that, Stu, that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
I think people learned some stuff. And you and I have Q&A today at noon, don't we?
12 noon.
We
Yeah,
do.
Eastern.
So we'll see
Yep.
many of you at noon. And for the rest of you, we will see you next Thursday on Coach's Corner. We'll see you then.